Call the June 20th, 2024 meeting to order. Brian, will you take the roll?
Steve Matheson. Here. Susan Whitehead.
Here.
Nikki Bishop. Here. Richard Livingood. Here. Stephanie Steffen.
Here.
Okay, we need to approve the minutes of the May 16th, 2024 minute meeting. Are there any additions or changes to the minutes? Would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes?
Second the motion.
Poll the board, please.
Mr. Livingood, when I poll the board here, I'm going to skip over you since you were not in attendance and not a board member at the time, okay? Steve Matheson.
Yes.
Susan Whitehead.
Yes?
Nikki Bishop.
Yes.
Stephanie Steffen.
Yes.
Okay, I will explain how we're going to conduct the meeting this evening. First, the city will give a brief description of the case, and then we will take testimony from the applicant and anyone that wishes to speak on that matter. Please come to the podium and give your name and address. If you plan to give testimony, please raise your right hand to be sworn in. I solemnly affirm that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, the first case on our agenda this evening is BA 2409. The applicant is requesting a conditional use for short-term rentals for the property located at 621 Monmouth Street. Brian, would you?
Susan, as a matter of business, we need to swear Mr. Livingood in.
All right,
Starting.
we'll do that first.
Right hand, and then at the end, just affirm. So you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of this Commonwealth, and be faithful and true to the Commonwealth of Kentucky, so long as you continue as a citizen thereof, and that you will faithfully execute to the best of your ability the office of Board of Adjustment for the Board of Kentucky according to law. You further solemnly swear that since the adoption of the present Constitution, that you being a citizen of the state have not fought a duel with deadly weapons within the state, nor have you accepted a challenge to fight a duel with deadly weapons, nor have acted as second in carrying out a challenge, nor aided or assisted any person thus offending, so help you God. Very good. I'm going to have you sign, and we'll be ready to go.
We're always waiting for one time when we give the oath that someone will say, I did fight a duel with deadly weapons. It's not happened yet in my tenure with the city, so apparently Richard good still, okay? So BA 2409, the applicant, the property at 621 Monmouth Street, Traff Property Management, is requesting a conditional use permit to operate short-term rentals in that building. For those of you that were on the board at the time, the former owner had requested a similar conditional use permit and parking variance to operate typical long-stay rentals, apartment dwellings in this building. It's my understanding from the applicant that the configuration of the building is not to change. However, the type of rents that they intend to operate out of there as short-term is the difference between the two. The parking variance, as you all are aware, stays with the property and not with the applicant. So in this case tonight, a parking variance was not required for this hearing. Table 6 of the city's zoning code lists hotel, motel type of stays, which we've identified as being short-term rental as conditional use in the code, which is why the board is hearing this case tonight.
Okay.
I have nothing further on the case unless someone has any questions from the board.
So it's your understanding that nothing internally has changed? The apartments are still the same configuration and?
That's correct. The former owner went through all the proper permitting and inspections. Mr. Traft did not indicate that there were going to be any configuration changes to that. So there would be no enlargement or reduction of units or bedrooms, which would trigger parking anyway.
Okay.
So it's compliant in that regard. So it's just the actual use of the building is what we're talking about tonight in the manner of short-term rental. City has no objection to the application. This is, we've seen many of these in the CBD zone, and they've all seemingly worked out pretty well for that.
Brian, would the applicant like to address the board? Or his attorney?
Sorry.
Mr. Traft is not in the audience tonight.
The applicant here?
I've not actually met Mr. Traft face-to-face, so I don't know what he looks like.
I don't believe that it's necessary. Here's, feels satisfied by Mr. Steffen's testimony. Obviously, the board is certainly welcome to ask other questions. They feel those questions can't be answered because the applicant's not here, then I would ask the board to table this matter and we'll set it for the next one. Can't be for Tuesday based on noticing, so it would have to be a lot.
I mean, do you think there's a problem? I mean, we heard it for the apartments, and like you said, we gave that conditional use, and we took care of the parking issue at that point.
That's correct. I mean, there's no substantial changes to the building itself or the density therein. It is simply the matter of a minimum 30-day stay or a short-term stay. And the city's ordinances and the rental dwelling license ordinance specifically, a typical rental dwelling is a minimum 30-day stay. This conditional use would allow him to deviate from that and rent it pretty much in day-to-day or however, like a typical hotel or motel. I'm actually going to text Mr. Kraft real quick here. So obviously, if there's a few options here. If the board feels as though they would take a adverse position to the application, it would be best to table the item tonight and have him come back. However, just in past practice here and other ones that we've seen, okay. He did just respond and said, no, we are not planning on attending. I'm not certain that maybe he did not understand the process here, but Tiffany would have sent him notices to attend with his attorney. So again, city has no objection to it.
The board's going to take action, I would also, we still want to ask the audience if there could be testimony
Correct.
taken there before you deliberate.
Okay. Does the board want to go ahead and discuss this without the owner being here? Because, with the conditional use, we can premise the conditions that it has to be the same configuration that it was. We can't change what the expectation was. Is there anyone that wanted to speak to that matter? Please. Introduce yourself and give us your address.
My name's Jerry Peluso at 623 Mama Street. Thank you for the opportunity for speaking on this matter. I own a business right next door to the applicant, and also I own a piece of property and manage, as a landlord, some property directly behind this conditional use. Based on other Airbnbs on the street, it's been a blessing to the business district. People come in, they're very respectful. Of course, a lot of it has to do with the people running the Airbnbs. A lot of small businesses benefit. I know I have, and all the restaurants along the street have benefited as well. This particular piece of property, in my opinion, where the units are going in the front part of that building, because there's like two parts of this. they've saved the building. They've put hundreds of thousands of dollars into this building. So I think it's a great investment for them, and I just support it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I have a question or make a comment? Really, it doesn't sound like anything is significantly changing other than the traffic around the property, correct? They're identified as rental units to begin with. There's just going to be advanced traffic, and we're hearing from local businesses that that's a benefit and a blessing to them, so.
So, yes, and that is essentially why the city has looked at short-term rental in the central business district, because it's typical, in the commercial zones, it's more of a frequent stop and leave type of activity. It's not like a residential neighborhood where people come home and they don't leave their home 20 times a day. It's less disruptive to a business district to have short-term rental versus inside of your neighborhoods. Transient type of rental like this in a neighborhood could be disruptive. So in this case, and Mr. Peluso's testimony tonight is evident of that. We've had 0 complaints about short-term rental in the central business district since we've began receiving these applications over the past several years.
That was one of my questions as to whether or not what the neighbors felt about that, as far as the frequency, people coming in and out more often perhaps, but it sounds like it's a blessing to the business district. I see no real reason.
I'm good. Yeah. Is anybody ready to make a motion?
I'm allowed to.
So with conditional use.
It's a conditional
statu-
use.
Oh, we do have statutory language, right? So, Rich, there's some statutory language that, when making a motion, that has to be entered into that.
Yes, Susan should have, or one of the board members should have, the statutory language you want to say in the motion. And the other part you want to do, just, that there's no fancy language with this, it's applying what you heard from the testimony to what your motion.
And why it doesn't, why it's a benefit. There's conditional use. But
And then you'll reference this.
should mention, yes.
I make a motion to approve case number BA 2409, grant a conditional use to allow a short-term rental at the address listed 621 Monmouth Street. By granting this conditional use at this particular location is necessary or desirable, provide a service or facility which will contribute to the general well-being of the neighborhood or the community, and will not, under the circumstances of this particular case, be detrimental to the health, safety, or general welfare of persons residing or working in the vicinity, or injurious to property or improvements in the vicinity, and will comply with any regulations and conditions specified in the official zoning ordinance, as well as the adopted comprehensive plan for the city of Newport, Kentucky for such building and use. How was that?
And then, would we attach the condition of the fact that the plan is not changing as well to that, motion?
Yes.
Good. If, Rich, if you want to make that part of your motion,
Something like that.
okay. Okay. Do we get a second?
Okay, do we have a second?
Yes, I'll second.
All right. Okay.
Will you pull the board?
Steve Matheson?
Yes.
Susan Whitehead?
Yes.
Nikki Bishop?
Yes.
Richard Livingood? Stephanie Steppen?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Traft is watching, so Mr. Traft, your application has been approved, so.
All right. Next case is BA 2410. This is 35 East 9th Street. Zoning for, what are we doing here?
I don't think that's correct. What I have on mine is 2410 is 815 Brighton. Is that differing from what you have?
They don't, oh, here's the address of the subject property. Yeah, 815 Brighton. It's really teeny writing. So they're looking for, yeah, this is a variance.
Yeah.
Yes. So, Brian, would you like to give us a,
Sure, yes. So the applicant is requesting a dimensional setback variance. This is a rear and side yard setback variance in the R3 zone at 815 Brighton Street. The applicant, Mr. Otto, is renovating a property to live in himself. This setback variance is intended for the construction of an addition to the rear of the home, including a garage. I reviewed the plans prior to the meeting. While there are some potential building code issues with that, nothing that cannot be overcome through construction. As part of this, too, you can see on the attachments to the application, it's a two-story addition with a garage and a roof deck over top of that. Now, obviously, this is in the newly created Buena Vista Historic District, so there would be some compliance that they would have to do with that. The applicant is actually not in attendance on this case tonight either. I just text him as well. So, not sure. This is not per the usual. That's why I'm a little kind of. Okay, yeah. John's going to call Justin here real quick.
He's on his way, we could just push it to the end, but I'll reach out to him.
I'll just go ahead and finish giving my introduction to it. So, in this particular case, the property, the side yard setbacks are 0.3, meaning the property, the building can be built all the way out to the property line on one side, 3 feet on the other, and the rear yard is 25 feet rear yard setback. In this case, he's encroaching into the rear only. And it appears as though he needs, he's going to have a remaining 8 foot 3 inches in the rear yard for that. As with most of these things, a lot of these lots are not quite as buildable due to their tight proximity to the neighbors. He's unable to acquire additional property. I'm sorry, he does need both side yard and rear yard setback. He's going 0.0 on the side yard and to 3 feet on the rear. I had the plans kind of backwards here. So he'll need a 22-foot rear yard setback and a 3-foot side yard setback in order to construct this addition and garage.
So there's an existing house, and then he's putting a garage on the back with a rooftop deck, and is that what we're looking at?
That's correct. So yes, he's
He also putting a second floor on the existing house, or is that a
That-
two-story house now?
so it's an existing kind of story and a half type of building.
Oh, okay.
To the rear of it, he is constructing a second story or a two-story addition to kind of match that roof line. If you look on page 2 of his plans, a portion of that, there is a rooftop deck over top of the garage that is pretty far back from the street. This particular property, if you look, it is kind of a unique situation in that the building, the side yard for the existing structure is not on the alley side. So this building sits at the 0 lot line on the alley side. So he's kind of just going along that line with that and going all the way over to the property line on the other side. Now, in my discussion with him on this, I did urge him to hold back the building or the plans for the building from the adjacent property so that there would be no issues with maintenance or upkeep of both structures. As you can see on the plan, he's left sufficient space around that so that there would be room to work in there if the neighbor needed to, and for his own property. As you all are aware, this is quite difficult when you have to get into the neighbor's yard to maintenance your own home anyway, so he was accommodating to that. There are some fire rating requirements on the building code side, but that's neither here nor there for tonight. So again, with this case, city has no objection to it.
Mr. Otto, you didn't misunderstand. He works at the county building, lives on 9th Street, so he is gonna come down if the board has questions for you.
Can we go ahead and see if there's someone else that wants to speak on the matter?
Well, there's somebody in the audience, I think, on this one.
That's what I mean. Yeah. Yes. And please state your name and address.
My name's Brandy Rowley. I live at 342 Thornton. This is my mom's house.
I own the house at 817 Brighton Street, right next door.
Okay?
So,
I live,
go ahead.
go ahead.
You want me to talk?
Yeah, I want you.
Okay, so, the fence, he's already taken down the fence. We had a fence there, and he went ahead and took that fence down,
So you know how it
which,
is.
so there's no fence in between our yards right now. He's asking for how many feet of the yard?
So he's not asking for any feet into your property. He's asking to go, and I can show you the plans real quick.
Because we don't want anything like hanging over into our yard or
So building code would not permit that anyway.
be able to have our own fence as well as,
I
you
mean,
know.
is this gonna be like attached to his house, or is it gonna be separate from his
So
house?
this is all one structure. He's attaching, this is the existing house in the front. This is the addition. So
Oh, So
this
he wants
is,
to build in the front.
so this is the rear. So if you go
It's
down.
already a two-story house.
Correct, but this is the addition we're speaking about. This is down Hardy Alley. So this is to the rear of his property. I'm assuming you're here, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is my house.
Okay.
He's on
So
the alley.
he's asking here to go to the property line with his building, but not encroach into yours.
That's what I'm
With this
saying,
board-
so I would have no fence then.
So
It would just be
the
his
building,
building.
you would see the building side of that. You wouldn't have a fence there. It
Like,
would be-
like the house next door, it'd
So-
be in my yard, pretty much.
Well,
I'd be
he-
looking at it every day, a big building in my backyard.
Well, it's not in your yard, but but there would be
See,
a
because here's
3-foot.
the picture.
You know, when you
Where
walk
he took
past
the
your
fence
house,
down.
you're like, there's a big building
Here's
in
the
my.
picture of his house from the alley, and then that's where he took the fence down. Here's our house. So the yards aren't very big, and, you know,
Correct.
anyways. And the church butts up to the back of our house, well, all of our houses, the property line there. It's a big parking lot with
You
a
know,
long
so
church
when I look out my
fence.
kitchen window now, I see the house next door. So now when I go out my back, I'll see, you know, there'll be a big building in, you know, which I can touch. You know, I mean.
And they are.
I
There's
can
like-
lean up against,
There's like 5
Yeah, I
houses,
mean-
they're not, they're pretty
It'd be like a
close.
fence.
Rural there on the building.
I mean,
They're all very close there, and that, it's like 5, there's like 5 houses on that row right there.
I mean, we've had this house for 50 years. Our family's lived there. My dad had the house and then it got passed to me. You
So
know,
it sounds like the house is going to become the fence, is that, am I understanding that?
That's what it
correct?
pretty much.
That's correct. So there is a
After
3.
we already done took down the fence and I didn't call the police or make a report or anything about, you know, taking down my fence, you know.
Because he said he believed it was his, but, you know, like I said, neither
I
here
mean,
nor
you know,
there.
it's always
like the house
the
next door,
protection.
we put the fence up there, but I'm not gonna tell that lady, that's not your fence, because it is our fence, even though we put it up a long time ago.
Yeah.
You know, it's still her fence.
Okay.
That was kind of like that her house.
It sounds like there's still gonna be a fence there,
Maybe,
but it's not gonna be,
is maybe if we.
it's only gonna be a
for minute,
9-foot.
Let you guys talk.
Right, so all that stuff that was growing there before that I wasn't allowed to
Still
cut
come up
down
with this
on my
thing,
side.
but that way, you guys have an understanding of what's
So all
going
that
on.
stuff.
Mr. Otto just
Hey.
walked in, so.
He's-
So if we could allow, so we're kind of out of
Yeah,
turn here,
we're-
just slightly, just because of some of the confusion tonight. So Mr. Otto just showed up, so if we could kind of get back to our normal.
Madam Chairman, what I would request that we do, it sounds like there's a couple things that might be more clear if the applicant spoke to the neighbors, and if we could maybe pass this to the end of the docket and allow
I-
them to have a chance to get to know what the situation is.
Right.
As I told Ms. Rowley, she's certainly welcome to come back up and continue testifying and disagree, but maybe there's to be some understanding reached between the group before that happens. So, you guys want to?
Justin, do you need the plan so you can show? It's underneath it.
So we can table this for the moment?
Yes.
And we can go on to our next case then. All right, this is BA 2411. This is, the subject property is 231 Main Street. Right, yes. Oh, okay, and do we need to get that on the record, that Nikki's recusing herself? Okay.
So just as the board may be aware, Ms. Bishop had previously owned the property in question. She two owners removed. She recused an abundance of caution to the initial case in front of the BOA. And after consultation with her, we thought it was prudent, just out of the extreme abundance of caution, to have her recused on this as well.
Okay. Would the applicant or their attorney like to speak on this matter?
Christopher Longwell, Baron Peck, Benny and Schlemmer. I'm the attorney for Ashley Builders Group.
Okay,
Address is 3074 Madison Road, Cincinnati, Ohio.
thank you.
I would like to introduce Bill Kruzjans, who's with Ashley Builders Group, who can explain a little bit more about this case.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And you guys might remember I came by for a townhome development that we're doing up in the same area. This is, there were actually two pieces of property on this up there. This was, there's a piece of property at the corner that's attached to the other pieces of property. And we're gonna be, we're working with somebody right now that would like to design a home for that particular site. It is, I don't know if you've got the, just to put everything in reference, if you've got the application, you can see that there are the 12 lots. I guess if you go several pages back, you can see the initial townhome lots that were requested with the side yard variances previously. And then at the end, it says 5,000 square feet in that area, and I highlighted around it. I don't know if that's coming through on the black and white, but that's the particular lot we're requesting the variances for. And this lot actually will sell with another lot that is off of the alley, off of Hoyer Alley there, so that they will have additional like parking and stuff back on that lot. And that is the lot that is, if you look at the turn at Hoyer Alley. Okay, if you look at the turn there, you can see there is a lot there. It says 10,850 square feet, and that's the lot that would be going with it, and that would be additional parking. And only bring that up is that's sort of integral into why we're changing the orientation, or why we're looking to do this. So, if you go to the sheet before that sheet that I was just discussing, you'll see the lot in question. And I wrote on there what I'm requesting the variance to get, and you'll see there's, it's a three-sided, there's roads on three sides of this lot. One area faces Grandview, one faces the main street, and then the other area faces the alley there. And I'm proposing to do front yard setbacks on Main Street and the alley, and then the rear yard setback on Grandview, because the Grandview actually falls down grade-wise at that point. And in the way we're orienting the townhomes and other things, it made sense to push this house towards the Main Street streetscape so that they line up along Main Street, so that looks like more of a continuous road, and it sort of fits in a little bit better with that. And instead of pulling it way back from the alley, the 25 feet, that's why we wanted to put the front yard setback on that side, so that the alley is, it's better sort of if houses are closer to the alley than farther away sometimes, because it just makes it look a little bit nicer. So that is the request, and I did list some reasons for this. Part of it is the grade at the front of the site and the way that, and the three-sided streetscape there for this alley, with the alley and the other two streets. this lot, as well as the additional parking lot, is well over density requirements and all the other requirements of the zone. So this is just a request for the sort of swap in the front and backyard setback. So we will still have a setback of 25 feet on the Grandview side.
Okay.
Sounds good. I don't see any negative effects to folks surrounding there, any other properties. Seems to be consistent with a little bit of a nice design change based on the concept of the rest of the development.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Grustan? Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address the board on this matter? No? Okay.
Susan, just to comment on this, this is one of the situations with a unique lot, which is the reason why we're here. I would suggest in any sort of motion that you would make is that reference the plan as submitted rather than identifying front, rear, and side, because the way that the zoning code definitions of double lots and frontage and front lot line, rear lot line, it may not exactly line up with how this is identified as front, rear, and side. So I think out of an abundance of caution and just so that we're clear that we can make a motion to accept the variance, the variances as requested per the plan submitted by Mr. Krusch, by the applicant. That way that we're covered.
That makes sense, because it does get very confusing with all these.
It does, and technically the zoning code says that you have to pick a front, and that you can't change your mind, and since they're in design, that what we may think is a typical front of the house may not be what the front of the house shows up on a set of plans. So that way it still leaves flexibility for the applicant and the potential homeowner to design the building how they choose.
Okay. Someone prepared to make a motion on this case? Is there any more discussion?
Should again, as long as I can find the right document to read.
Well, this is variance.
Variance, yeah.
Yeah, I can,
So the,
I'll go ahead and make a motion.
You're gonna make,
I'll make the motion to approve case number
2411.
2411, BAA 2411, to grant the site setback variance, to approve it as submitted by the applicant for 231 Main Street. By granting this variance, let me give findings first. So, given the fact that there are 3 streets on each side of this house, and the fact that they're taking pains to include parking, which we know that parking was an issue that they wanted to address for up there, I am granting this, or I am motioning to grant this variance. It'll be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the official zoning ordinance and comprehensive plan for the city of Newport, Kentucky. It will not be injurious to the neighborhood or otherwise detrimental to public welfare. It will not adversely affect public health, safety, or welfare. It will not alter the essential character or general vicinity of the neighborhood. It will not cause hazard or nuisance to the public, and it will not allow unreasonable circumvention of zoning regulations.
Steve, you may want to make mention that, that this is in part due to testimony that was given and the unique shape of the property.
Yes, given the unique shape of the property, that it's abutted by 3 different streets, and that they're taking pains to add parking, and it won't be on-street parking.
Okay, sounds good.
We have a second?
I second the motion.
Ryan, will you pull the board?
All right. Steve Matheson?
Yes.
Susan Whitehead?
Yes.
Richard Livingood?
Yes.
Stephanie Steffen?
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Are we going back, or should we go on to
I would suggest going on
case number
to 12.
2412?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Our next case on the docket is BA 2412. This is a request for a tattoo studio at 843 Monmouth Street on the second floor.
So.
Brian, you want to?
Yes, so BA 2412, 843 Monmouth Street, this application is for a conditional use permit, utilize existing space on the second floor of that building. As you all are aware, earlier in the year, the Planning and Zoning Commission and ultimately the City Commission approved a text amendment to allow tattoo studios in the Central Business District as conditional use. Part of that, the conditions that were approved were a minimum 1,000 feet distance requirement from other existing tattoo studios. In this case, this building is just outside of that, so it does comply with the distance requirement. I passed along the copy of the section of the zoning code with those subsequent conditions about hours of operation and existing principal commercial buildings, sole tenant in the space, sign regulations and visibility from the public right-of-way and hours of operation, all that. Any approval tonight, I would suggest that the board would make a motion that would reference those conditions if they so choose. Secondly, just for the board's information, this would essentially be the only other tattoo studio that would be permitted in the Central Business District currently. After this, the distance requirement would exceed any available or possibility of other buildings in the CBD zone. So, and that would remain until one would vacate.
All right.
My name's Adam Bliley. I represent Jeff Tenbrink, which is actually the LLC's Black Crow LLC. I'm going to defer to him, other than I was going to tell you my understanding when I looked at the conditional use. We've double-checked it. He is in compliance with everything, but I'm going to defer to Jeff, if that's okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I think with everything, we have met the requirements. The conditional use for the tattoo studio. Have about.
Can I jump in, or what I did want to say, I thought you were going to go in this. Jeff's been tattooing for over 30 years. I actually know him personally, even though I was an attorney. That's kind of how we knew each other back early 90s. And he has always complied with every rule everywhere he's ever gone. He does it the right way. He will continue to do it the right way. He has a family. This is how he supported his family for the last 30 years. He would be an asset to the community on this one.
So then you've looked at all the conditions that are required with the tattoo studio, so health and safety permits and all that, and
Yes, ma'am. Currently I've been tattooing with Mother's Tattoo in Earlier, Kentucky, for about the last 22 years. The owner has owned the business for 20 years, so I've personally been there 2 years before he bought the place. I've been tattooing a little over 31 now. I've always been compliant. The studios have always been compliant within the Northern Kentucky health conditions for bloodborne pathogens.
He's also taken his required courses for such things too.
Yes, so we do 2 within a year. We were just found compliant. The whole studio plus each individual artist is inspected within the studio. Currently, there's a total of 6 of us there, so if none of us are compliant, the shop cannot operate. So, yes, for the last 22 years that I've been there, never had any issues, never been non-compliant of any of the rules.
now, I see you're going to the second floor, so you don't really have the visibility issue then with the,
Correct. Yes.
If it is a concern, it's going to be addressed. That doesn't seem like, when I even looked at it, doesn't seem like it's concerned, but let's assume for some reason it is. He's aware that there has to be that. I mean, if anything, for a personal reason, the person,
You
your
want some,
client, you
yeah.
want privacy.
Right, right, right.
So if I could speak on that just briefly, the intent of that, and I drafted most of that, that text, the intent of that, and I'm very familiar with the industry myself, is to, for those first floor uses, originally, the original text that was drafted restricted the use to first floors. However, the city commission removed that portion after some opposition was had. I think logic would dictate that as the second floor, you wouldn't have people walking down the street looking in the window, and that was really the intent, to prevent, rubberneckers looking in to see what's going on in there, and that would that would most likely happen. So you.
It's a common sense thing, you respect your client.
Absolutely, and like I said, being familiar with the industry, most of the ones I've been in, you're away from the front windows anyways. So you are aware of the hours of operation requirement in this zone as well?
Yes, I've always operated within 12 to 8 is every shop that I've been in. It's always been 12 to 8 has been the statute, but yes, I see that, 8 o'clock is allowed, so if need to, if clients need to adjust their schedule or be tattooed earlier, that gives me a range of time to,
You also want to stay within those hours, because if you start moving outside of those hours, you might invite problems that you don't want.
Yeah, that was the intent of that as well, and most quality tattoo shops that I'm aware of, they stop at 8. Most things, not good things happen after a certain point in time in the evening, so, and that's the intent of that.
Days that we were together in the 90s, we learned those things kind of the hard way.
Will it just be you in the shop, or will you have other?
currently right now, yes, it will
Chairs.
be me. I was looking to set the shop up as a private studio, but still allow foot traffic to come into the area. Obviously, to welcome my clients into the area, into Newport. There's and there's an abundance of restaurants for people to try. I'm not that far away from the levee, so I always tend to gravitate towards welcoming in more people, as that's the way my business can grow. That way,
Understand he has an established clientele. He's been doing it for so long. He's going to have established clientele that is coming from mainly outside of Newport to come here.
Are you the only one occupying that second floor space, or is there other units?
I mean, don't get me wrong, he does have friends that, as I understand, there's enough space to be in compliance with a total of 3, is that correct?
if I just want to set it up, we're still under some construction of just moving things around, but yes, there is enough space for 3, possibly if we moved further to be like 4. So it would be something to where I would open up more towards the public, and
No matter what it is, we're going to stay in compliance. If it just ends up, if you want it, that it's just him, that's fine also. He just wants to comply.
I was just wondering if there was any, like, other apartments up there where there would be,
no, it's only the
Intent.
second floor, there's nothing
Just-
above me, so I don't have to go through the business, there's a separate entrance for me to go upstairs. I'm right above Gourmet Chili, that area, so I'll be right above there, so.
From the city's point of view, this is a good reuse of the space on the second floor. It does, tattoo studios are typically low intensity of uses, especially if you only have one or a couple of artists in there. You're not going to have a whole ton of people coming at one point in time, especially somebody that it's less of a walk-in type of artist. Ones that have built-in clientele that are typically, those people are scheduled, it's one at a time, because I've seen it myself, you don't want 30 people in there waiting for you while you're trying to do some work. It doesn't bode well for productivity. So as far as the city's concerned, city has no opposition to it, provided that they comply with the conditions set forth in the ordinance.
What's the space being used for now? Do we know, Brian?
But I believe it's formerly residential, so this would actually, as an intensity of use situation, it's similar or even less than what a typical rental dwelling would be.
Anybody have any other questions? All right.
Should we sit down?
Yes, thank you. You
Can I
sit down.
ask one thing? If you duel in another state, does that eliminate you?
If you survive the duel.
Yeah, that's a good point.
All right. Sounds good. Who's gonna make a motion?
Was there anybody else that wanted to?
Does anybody have any other questions, or is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak on this matter? Oh. Okay. You ready to make a motion? Or not?
So this would be that conditional use language if,
Yeah, and we would reference, it's gonna be 913C and 913, would it be G?
It's G.
G,
Correct.
okay. I didn't know if it was C and G, okay, great. All right.
actually, I think, Steve, it's, commercial is 10.3 G.
10.3G, okay, gotcha, thank you.
Or you're talking about the I'm sorry.
Conditional use that you gave.
So you'd reference 913C of the conditional use section of the ordinance, but you could also reference section 10.3 G as the conditions
As the
set forth.
conditions, gotcha, okay, thank you. All right, so I will make a motion to approve case BA 2412, 2412. Grant conditional use to allow the site operate as a tattoo shop for the location of 843 Monmouth Street, floor number 2. Given the conditions that are abided to in conditional uses 913C of the ordinances, with conditions set by 10.3G governing tattoo studios, so the conditional use they're all are abided by, and that all health regulations are filed by the client for the health department. And that by granting this conditional use, this particular location is necessary, desirable to provide a service facility which contributes to the general well-being of the neighborhood. And the community will not, under the circumstances of this particular case, be detrimental to health, safety, or general welfare of persons residing or working in the vicinity, or injurious to property or improvements in the vicinity, and will comply with any regulations and conditions specified in official zoning ordinances, as well as adopted by the comprehensive plan of the city of Port Kentucky for such building and use.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
All right. Brian, will you pull the board?
All right, Steve Matheson?
Yes.
Susan Whitehead?
Yes.
Nikki Bishop?
Yes.
Richard Livingood? Stephanie Steffen?
Yes.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. All right, so we're back to BA 24-10. Variance for 815 Brighton Street.
I believe Mr. Otto has satisfied the concerns of the parties that were here to inquire. Justin is here if you have any questions for him. My testimony remains the same, that he has no opposition to the setback variances as presented.
Hi, my name's Justin Otto. Thanks for having me. I apologize for my tardiness. I just want to say I'm so excited to be able to renovate the home on 815 Brighton. My great-grandparents grew up 4 blocks up the street. You know, I was born in a house on West 13th Street, right next to the railroad tracks. So for generations, my family has lived, worked, and served in Newport. So this is a very special place for me, and I'm very proud that this will be the first house that my wife and I will live in and grow our family.
By putting the deck on, will you possibly be able to see Cincinnati
That's-
skyline?
You will, yeah.
Will you possibly be able to see in your neighbor's windows? No, seriously.
Well, he has an alley that's on the one side. There's no house behind, the neighbor's house is not back that far.
So the windows are on the alley side?
That's right, that's
Not
right.
on,
There are windows in the existing structure.
That are-
on the side with the house. But the part we're building will not have any windows that face our neighbor.
Okay. That sounds good, because,
As
you
long
know,
as you satisfy the neighbors, we seem to be pleased and satisfied.
Yeah, and they're very nice, and we've communicated a couple times over the phone.
Once you overcome the initial shock of, oh, my fence is gone,
Right, right.
to hear, well, there'll be a beautiful new structure right next to you. Will increase the value of your property.
Right.
Yeah, certainly what Mr. Otto is doing there is gonna be a huge improvement on the property was prior.
Oh, yes.
It already is.
I think the whole neighborhood is gonna be very grateful for the contribution there. Mr. Steffen and I met with Justin quite a while ago when he was first embarking on this project. It's always good when you see people investing, especially in the far west end of the city, and as I'm sure the board has seen, that development keeps moving westward, and they're really, it's hard to tell in some parts of town now the difference between the East Row and the West End, and that certainly wasn't the case, 15, 20 years ago, even closer than that, so.
Susan, kind of to answer your question that you had just a minute ago about the view into neighboring properties, I pulled up GIS, and there's a parking lot directly behind it, which it looks like it's probably 50, 60 feet or better, maybe even upwards of 100 to the back of the building behind it. The alley faces the rear of the properties on West 8th Street, so you're at least 60 feet away from this house. And all of this addition section is behind 817 Brighton next door. So really, there's very little chance that you could see in or look over into anybody's property, or vice versa. So this would be actually pretty secluded once this is.
Secluded,
constructed.
yeah.
Yeah. And like I said before too, Justin took some input from the city as well about, setting it back so there was maintenance abilities, and I mean, I think he was already thinking about that ahead of time, but those are important things, as we all know, that being able to access the side of your house on the zero lot line side for maintenance is important too. So he has that accommodated in the plans.
Just nice to see folks coming home to where the generations began, and to improve the property and to contribute to the community by doing that.
We're very excited.
Okay. Does anyone have any more questions for our applicant?
Thank you.
Well, thank you. All right.
Here you go.
Does
You want to take this
anybody-
one, Rich?
If I have the right information to read,
Well, we're back to the variance.
We can go back and do it too.
So for whoever's making the motion, again, reference beyond the statutory language, we should reference the testimony and evidence that was provided by the applicant and the city, but also as part of the special circumstance that exists on the property, the applicant cannot acquire any additional property in order to construct this addition. So if you could put, whoever does that, put that into the, suggesting to put that into the record as well.
all right.
It's
Oh, 10,
10.
2410.
Okay, I'm granting the variance for BC,
BA?
BA 2410. It will be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the official zoning ordinance and adopted comprehensive plan for the city of Newport, Kentucky. It will not be an injurious to the neighborhood nor otherwise detrimental to public welfare. It will not adversely affect public health, safety, or welfare. It will not alter the character of the general vicinity. It will not cause a hazard or nuisance to the public, and will not allow unreasonable circumvention of the zoning regulations and all of the particulars that Ryan just mentioned that were to be added to the language, which I can't remember.
Well, we would approve the setbacks as submitted, and it would be by, Well, that we'd
Yes,
have
that's
to-
correct. So the side yard would go to 0. In past practice, we have typically granted a full 25-foot rear yard setback to give construction a little bit of wiggle room, so to speak. So if, Rich, if you'd like to have that as part of your, as the record as well. Okay, great.
Second.
I second it.
Brian, will you pull the board?
Steve Matheson?
Yes.
Susan Whitehead?
Yes.
Nikki Bishop?
Yes.
Richard Livingood?
Yes.
Stephanie Steffen?
Yes.
All right.
I have no other business tonight if unless the board does.
Motion to adjourn?
Second. All in favor?
Here, here.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll